Hi Donald, it's Dave Stewart from Canada here. Now you may ask which Dave Stewart from Canada because there are a lot of us, but I'm the one who lived in Houston from 1976 to 1980 and again from 2003 to 2011 as I worked at MD Anderson Cancer Center. Now there are a lot of great people down there and I've got a lot of good friends. I have very good memories from living in Houston. In any event, I just wanted to let you know that I'm a bit concerned about your new fondness for Vlad Putin and Russia. You may not remember that Russia was never a great friend of America's. Now, the Russians did fight beside Canadians and Americans in World War II, and that was of great benefit to us. But it was not us who were trying to help. It was because Hitler, to their great shock, attacked Russia just very shortly after Stalin and Hitler signed a nice cozy agreement on how they were going to divide up Poland and the rest of Eastern Europe between them. Sort of like the agreement you appear to be ready to sign with Vlad now about how you and him will divide up Ukraine. Or did I get that wrong? If I happen to have gotten it right, just remember that history tells us that things like this don't usually go very well. If someone like Hitler or Vlad gets what they want easily, then they tend to just want to get more. Like Hitler going after all of Poland, and including the half they had promised to Stalin. And like him insisting that he then take over all of Czechoslovakia after swearing up and down that all he really wanted to do was to keep Sudetenland. It is memories like this that make most of Europe and many other countries very concerned about the approach you seem to be taking to the Ukraine. History tells us that this will probably end badly. In any event, by the end of World War II, many Americans regarded Russia as their great friend because of the great work they had done together. That is, until they discovered in September 1945 that Stalin had stolen all their nuclear secrets, the nuclear bomb secrets, while pretending to be their friend. Well, that really was a buzzkill. And now, history does not appear to be your strong point, but you may know that this was what actually set off the Cold War. Now, you say that you trust Vlad, and I'm sure that you're a great judge of character. But what are the American visitors that he has unjustly jailed? What about all the Russian opposition leaders he has imprisoned and killed? What about the Russian expatriates in other countries that he has poisoned? What about him swearing they had no plans at all to invade Ukraine right up to the very moment that his tanks started rolling towards Kiev? So if Russia is your friend, where were the Russians when you were struggling in Vietnam? Where was Russia when the Iranians attacked your embassy in Tehran? Where was Russia after Al-Qaeda attacked you on September 11th? What help did Russia give you in Afghanistan? Am I missing something? You see, Donald, much of the world finds it very difficult to understand why you like Vlad so much. And then they remember all those classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And they wonder how much those would be worth to somebody like Vlad. Everyone knows what a great businessman you are, Donald. With access to documents like that and a rich friend like Vlad, just think of all the money you can make. Of course, much of the world thinks that you already have thought of that. After all, you are a convicted felon. How disrespectful and hurtful for us not to trust you. But no one can figure out why else you would suddenly like Vlad so much. Tell us, Donald, what is it anyway that is so special about Vlad? On the other hand, many of your old friends feel betrayed. For example, the Ukrainians thought that you had their back until you sold them out to Vlad. The Poles, Czechs, Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians, and other Europeans thought that you were your friend and ally. And now you plan to give Vlad free rein with all of them. The Danes thought you were a friend, and then you told them that you planned to seize Greenland. Denmark was never attacked by Al-Qaeda, but gladly sent troops to Afghanistan to help you. Denmark is a very small country. If you do the math, you will see that, in fact, per capita, there were just about as many Danes killed in Afghanistan as there were Americans. And that was to support you. What disrespect and betrayal on your part. How boorish. So what about Canada? Well, America tried to conquer us in 1812, but failed. In the treaty we signed at the end of that war, we committed to be friends. And overall, that has worked pretty well for you. Let me just give you a few examples. On December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, the first country to declare war on Japan was not America. It was Canada. We had our friends back. As I said earlier, with the defeat of Hitler in 1945, America thought that Russia was their friend. It was Canadian intelligence that notified you that Russia had stolen your nuclear secrets. We fought beside you in World War I, World War II, and Korea. Canada did not participate as a country in the Vietnam War, but it is estimated that up to 30,000 Canadians volunteered to join the American Armed Forces to help our friend. When the Iranians overran your embassy in Tehran in 1979, Canadians risked their freedom and their lives to help smuggle Americans out of Iran. When the World Trade Center and Pentagon were attacked by Al-Qaeda, 100,000 Canadians rallied on Parliament Hill to show their support for you. With open arms, Canadians welcomed more than 30,000 stranded Americans who could not get home because of grounded flights. Canada was never attacked by Al-Qaeda, but we gladly stood with you in Afghanistan, where more than 150 Canadians were killed. We did not lose as many citizens as the Danes and Americans did, but we do grieve and honor them. And now, Donald, now you disrespect and betray us. You say that you want to destroy our economy so that you can take it over. You say you want to conquer us to become your 51st state. How dare you? We love Americans, but we have no wish to become Americans. We have about 10 times as many people as we do, and your economy is more than 10 times larger than ours. So if you decide you want to crush us, you might succeed in doing that. But why would you want to? The things that spring to mind are greed and depravity. Think of how much a convicted felon like you could make your friends and family by plundering Canada. And then there's the fact that it would make you feel good, because you're a bully, and the greatest pleasure to a bully is to crush others. We all remember what you said about defiling helpless women by grabbing their crotches just because you could. You have repeatedly shown the world that you are nothing more than a depraved, greedy bully. And from his disgusting display in the Oval Office meeting with Zelensky, the world got to see that JD is every bit as much a bully as you are. All that whining and finger pointing. So how would things go if you crushed Canada? Well, since you're a bully, it would probably make you feel pretty good in the short term. But then your problems would start. You would have 40 million people spread across your northern reaches who look just like you and sound just like you, so you cannot spot them in a crowd as they're coming up to you. But they now despise both you and those who permitted you to do this. Those 40 million former friends would now be firmly committed to seeing the thugs, criminals, and bullies responsible held to account. Not a pretty picture. You would have erased 2 centuries of peace, friendship, and security and replaced it with generations of future conflict. So Donald, how do we fight the tariffs with which you have said that you hope to crush our economy? Well, since you're also trying to bully the rest of the world, apart from your new best friend in Russia, I have an idea. How about if Canada gets together with Mexico and China and Europe, and together we all put together, as a start, a 100% tariff on all US goods. Then we also impose a 100% levy on everything that we sell to you that you need. Then we decline to use the US dollar for any transactions of any kind. If we did this, it would be painful for us. But the crash of the US stock market would make 1929 look like a blip. The US dollar would disintegrate as it became worthless for any transactions occurring outside US borders. Many of your assembly lines would grind to a halt. American inflation, unemployment, and civil unrest would skyrocket. Donald, you would have a lot of Americans very unhappy with you. You would whine and whimper how unfair it was, how everybody was now ganging up on America, because bullies always cringe and whimper when people stand up to them. But everyone would know that it was your fault, Donald, your fault, because of your greed and your ignorance and your bullying. A lot of Americans would suffer from this, and we would feel very badly for them, because Americans are our friends. But if Americans will not tame their bullies, then the rest of the world is going to have to do it for them. But we have to remember, it is not just Canadians and Ukrainians and Danes and other Europeans that have been disrespected and betrayed by you. Donald, it is the American people. The people who voted for you but are now unemployed because you fired them to give yourself and your buddies a tax break. Not that you pay any taxes anyway. Your people who can no longer access the government services they so desperately need. The Capitol Hill police officers. You pardoned the thugs who attacked and injured them on January 6th. And then you call those thugs, you call them heroes and patriots. What about the Capitol Police officers who were attacked? The FBI officers who you have threatened and intimidated and disrespected and fired? And what about your military? For decades they have stood side by side their NATO allies to protect America and the free world. And now you're asking them to betray their friends and allies and to grovel before an untrustworthy enemy just because it suits your personal self-interest. But then again, these are the same military personnel that you call suckers and losers because they were willing to die for America. These are the same military people that you scoffed at as you used your wealth to dodge the draft, just like the coward that you are. And if I were a member of your armed forces, I'd be very wary about the new dangers I may now face. I would strongly suspect that you'd already begun to sell America's military secrets to your new best friend, Vlad. What were you doing with those classified documents in Mar-a-Lago anyway? And what is it with your recent bullying and intimidation of the judiciary? I am sure that your pal Vlad has already told you that you can get away with just about anything if you have destroyed the independence of your judiciary. A democracy cannot survive without an independent judiciary. But you have been very open about the fact that tyranny is your thing, not democracy. So laws are just irritating inconveniences. They were never meant to apply to you. Donald, your system is different than ours. In yours is the responsibility of the legislative and judicial branches to rein in an executive branch that is run amok. It is, of course, the call of the American people, but it's my personal feeling that it is time for an intervention. What credibility do Americans have in the eyes of the world when their president is a convicted felon, a thug, and a habitual liar? If you ordered American troops into action, as they marched to their now more certain death, would they trust anything you had told them? The world has seen ample evidence that both you and JD are just untrustworthy bullies who would betray America's friends and our friends, the American people. Okay, that's all I have today for you, Donald. Have a good day, and give our best to the wife and kids and to your best buddy, Vlad. This is Dave Stewart from Canada.